Once upon a time when I was much younger, I worked at Fox News Channel. This was before they went absolutely batshit crazy. I was one of the originals, but I like to say it before I do segments because I still about Fox News because I still have some people over there who, God knows why they're still there. But for all of us who don't like to watch Fox News, the only time that sometimes seems interesting is when somebody actually goes on Fox News and trolls them to your face. And that actually happened over the weekend. This involves President Biden's plan to give money to immigrants who have their families torn apart at the border. Here is the president from the weekend. Watch.
If in fact, because of the outrageous behavior of the last administration, you coming across the border, whether it was legal or illegal, and you lost your child, it's gone. You deserve some kind of compensation, no matter what the circumstance.
Right, sounds reasonable. They tear apart your children. You might sue, but whether you have standing or not, the government is going to give you some money. Well, that prompted that sort of point of view then came up at a news conference in which the senior Fox News White House correspondent, not quite sure how he's a senior Fox News White House correspondent, but Peter Doocy had this exchange with Joe Biden. Watch.
Do you think that might incentivize more people to come over illegally?
If you guys keep sending that garbage out, yeah, but it's not true.
So this is a garbage report?
Yeah.
Now, most people seem to understand that Biden was talking about not that there would be money going to these families, but that it was a garbage report to suggest that somehow there's a financial incentive for people to cross the border and then have their children torn apart. That therefore, oh, my children might be torn apart, therefore, I'm gonna try to cross the border because I might get some money. Well, that distinction though was lost on Fox News anchor Bill Hemmer over the weekend. So leave it to Biden White House advisor Cedric Richmond to hammer Hemmer and Fox News to his face. Watch.
If you go back to the question was from a Fox reporter asking about whether compensation for being separated and losing a child would be an incentive to come to America. And what he was saying was that was an absurd question from the beginning. No one's coming somewhere to lose their child, to be separated from their loved one. And the question is so insensitive, disrespectful, that's what he was commenting to. And I would ask the question of you, whether you support that. I mean, at some point, we cannot, with a straight face, say that parents are willing to separate from a child for a dollar amount.
Except on Fox News, they do say that with a straight face. And when Peter Doocy thinks that he hears President Biden talking about Doocy's reporting as opposed to Doocy's idea and the Fox News idea, which is patently absurd that any parent would be incentivized to come to the United States to get money because, hey, my children might be taken away from him. I mean, everybody knew, I think, Francesca, that that's what Biden was referring to when he said that's garbage. It wasn't the idea that Biden was saying, oh no, it's garbage, this idea that we're gonna pay people. No, it's your explanation of this that is garbage. Why is that distinction so difficult for them?
No, and we have to understand just how far right the conversation nationally is on immigration. We're so far to the right that we can't even say the word center without being like, no, we're all the way on the right, or I'm on the right of your screen. Like, because imagine, the Biden administration arguably has not done enough when it comes to actually changing Trump immigration policies, right? They, like, arguably by every grassroots organization, everyone who works around human rights, they're saying there's not been enough. There is some, I believe, in the Build Back Better Act, if that gets passed, but there's not been enough. Not enough has been dismantled, not enough accountability. This is a small way to give compensation, which is, I mean, it is nothing in comparison to being reunited with your child, which I know the administration says they're working on. This is compensation, and even that is too much for the far right. And I gotta say, sometimes Biden's sort of like fuddy-duddiness really works in his favor, where he's like, yeah, if you keep putting that crap out, people are gonna believe that. And you kind of like that. You like that he can just be his fuddy-duddy self and be like, yeah, you guys are filling people's minds with poison. And you also see the way stories like this get laundered, right? So at Thanksgiving, you might have a relative who's like, yeah, well, I heard that they're giving people money if they relinquish their child at the border, and then you get $450,000 or whatever it is, right? It's a lot of money because it's a huge, it's a huge loss. But that gets laundered and twisted by the right-wing news cycle into the point where, yeah. Oh no, it's an incentive, it's a prize. It's just prize money now. It's not, we're trying to right the wrongs from your guy, from the dude who, the human rights violation guy.
I also wonder, Francesca, if it gets even sort of scarier than that. I mean, we sort of joke about, Fox News and the way they sort of mess around with this stuff and But I mean, you mentioned earlier, you made a great point about fascism, and there's this sort of effort on the right with the help of Fox News to engage in fascism. And part of fascism is to take a minority group, to take immigrants, and to dehumanize them. And the only way anybody could ever think that any human being would willingly give up their child for some pot of money is if you think that that person is not human. If you think that they are not worthy of the same humanity that the rest of us have. And so when Fox News comes out and spews in front of President Biden, and then also on all the various platforms, oh yeah, some of these immigrants, they really want to get the money, therefore they're gonna come up with their children in the hopes that their children will be separated and they get some money. Then you start to have people thinking, oh, well, if that person has dark skin and they come from Central America, they don't love their children. They're happy to sell their children or sell their children into trafficking or collect from the US government. And that's the only reason they're coming to the United States. And I think if you ask any parent of any culture, maybe not any culture, but nearly every culture on the planet, would you ever dream of selling off your children willingly? Nobody would say yes. That's insanity. And the idea that there's some people on the right in the United States, and clearly Fox News knows that there are people who like this stuff. The idea that they would say this with a straight face and they would say, oh yeah, but there's a legitimate point here. Doesn't it incentivize? I mean, that is really, really frightening.
Absolutely. It is 100% demonizing and also having no empathy. And this is sort of where I get to my main, this is the dark moments where you're like, I don't know if we can come together as a country, because if you don't have basic empathy for someone trying to seek a better life in another country, save their own lives, fleeing gang violence from their countries, destabilize, by your country and their foreign policy, I don't know what to say to you anymore, man. Like, I don't even know if we can have this conversation if you lack so much basic empathy. But yeah, fascism needs a scapegoat, and immigrants have been that for so long. And that's why we have to make sure we combat that. And sadly, I'm not seeing enough from the Biden administration yet to really do it.
And I wonder if incentivize is another one of these, I don't know, incentivize, 3-syllable words, which maybe Peter Doocy never quite learned in college when he was studying it. Because look, there are incentives for people who have the sort of miserable life and seek a better life, or coming from places in Latin America where there are gangs and murder runs rampant and there are drugs and there's no opportunity. Sure, there's an incentive if they can get to the United States, they can build a better life, they can have freedom, they can have liberty, they can have an education, the American dream. That's the incentive. The incentive is not to come and collect $450,000 in the hopes that, well, maybe I'll be able to get rid of my child and I'll collect a bunch of money anyway. That's just absurd. And for people who do not understand what incentivize really means and what incentives are actual real incentives versus these sort of made up incentives that they talk about and bandy about on Fox News, makes me think, well, they're just dumbing down their audience even more and tossing around a word like incentivize when they have absolutely no idea what it means.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. The Trump strategy, let's be real, on immigration was to be worse than MS-13. Right. For as much talk as how much they hated MS-13, this gang violence, this and that, their answer was, oh no, we should create more fear, as much fear as gangs do, so people don't come here. Well, I think we might be better than that.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.